All right. Thanks for tuning in to All Things Division III Soccer with SimpleCoach and Jackie. That there is my Kimosabi Jackie. Just awake. I think she's probably annoyed. And I am, oh, she looks evil in that shot. And I am SimpleCoach. So, I was thinking this morning as I was prepping for today's SimpleCoach to Coach interview that I don't know how this has happened over the last 2.5 months since I started this, whatever this is. I've managed to interview the coaches of 2 national championship teams, a 4-time national champion, and 2 top 20 teams. I mean, I would have never thought that 2.5 months ago when I decided to do a video on does passing matter in Division III soccer. And just by the way soccer is, you connect with somebody, they connect you to somebody else. Well, I got connected to somebody who is just starting out their head coaching career and has had a really successful playing career and continues to play, is young and is taking on a program that is working towards what I think is going to be a pretty profound change from where they're at now. Today I get to speak with Dani Gunderson, who is the sister of Jamie Gunderson of Christopher Newport University, the 2021 Women's National Champions. And she, in her own right, is the head coach, second-year head coach at Muskingum University. Go Muskies. Now, we talk about a ton of topics, like for those of you who are familiar with my other videos, and needless to say, I'm very impressed. And she has the vision, and she's shown already the progress in a short period of time. Where I'm going to say this, and then we'll cut to the interview. I'm putting out a warning, and I'm giving the rest of the OAC a heads up. Because in the next couple years, even if not next year, Muskingum women's soccer is going to hurt a few teams in the season. I think, yeah, I'm just going to stand by that. And so there's a fan here who, even though I am a Mount Union grad, I've become a fan of, I think that I'm going to adopt Muskingum as my new favorite team in women's soccer, because I think all of the pieces are there and the coach is there and the players are there to make something special happen. So with that, I hope you enjoy my interview with Coach Gunderson, and I'll see you on the flip side.
So I was able to coach very early on, and I fell in love with it. I was able to see the growth of those athletes. And then when I graduated, even into my senior year at CNU, I was looking to try to get into the college game and try and coach there. And I went from Virginia to Pennsylvania. That was my first coaching job was at Susquehanna University, which is a Division III school in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. And I was fortunate enough that my boss at the time, Nick Hoover, took me on. And he took a young, energetic person who then kept falling in love with it. And from there, I was there for 2 years. I went to Frostburg State University, and at that point, they were a Division III school, which is kind of the level that I've been at my entire life. I was there for about a year, and then I made my way to Denison University, which is in Ohio, and I was there for 4 years as an assistant coach. I grew a tremendous amount in that 4 years, really just developed myself as a coach even more. And then when the Muskingum job kind of opened up, I thought it would be a great fit for myself. And I was fortunate enough to be taken on by our AD at the time, Steve Brocklebank, who gave me that opportunity. And now I'm here. So I think all 3 different institutions and even my hometown coaching is kind of how I got into it and kind of got that excitement out of it.
Now you're just doing the coaching. You're not teaching or doing anything like that, right?
So I did
Uh-huh.
actually teach this last
Yeah.
semester. I taught a foundations of athletic skill, which essentially
Hmm.
was a
Yeah.
sports class,
Yeah.
right? And it was, though, it was a, a 200 level class. So the kids had to do some presentations, and they learned about all the sports. We have an education major on campus, and so it
Mhm.
kind of couples with that if you wanted to be like a PE teacher.
Yeah.
And so it was exciting. That was my first time ever teaching,
Nice. Yeah.
rather than coaching, and it's very similar, but I enjoyed myself doing that.
That's great. So I told your brother Jamie that I don't think accounting will always be there. So I'm glad you chose the path you did. And if you ever needed to go back to accounting or wanted to, you could
Mhm.
certainly can. And like I said, it'll be there. Let me ask you in this. I mean, your progression in terms of coaching, who would you say of the coaches that you've worked for have had the biggest impact on you in terms of who you see yourself as the coach now?
Yeah, I think, all three of those different institutions have given me something different. At Susquehanna, I feel like I gained a little bit more confidence of kind of knowing what I'm talking about and knowing how to articulate that to athletes. And I grew so much because I was young. I was 23 years old. So, yeah, I learned a lot there. And then I went to Frostburg and I learned how a different way of motivating a different type of athlete, than I did at Susquehanna. And then more recently, when I was at Denison, under Gail Murphy there, that program is historically very good.
Yeah.
And she really, and Denison itself really harps on culture, and really developing a strong culture and developing young women, at the end of the day, to be leaders. And that I took that wholeheartedly, and I have put that into my program here at Muskingum.
Hmm.
So all three of those coaches I was under helped it a lot. Now, the person who's been in my life the most that is a coach is my brother.
Hmm.
And, my family, they are the most supportive family that is out there. And my brother and I have been coaching the same amount of time. I guess slightly longer since he started my senior year, but we bounce ideas off each other
Yeah.
all of the time. We go recruiting at the same places all of the time. So, he's someone that is always my backbone that I can easily reach out to.
Yeah.
But yeah, those four people really helped mold myself
Yeah.
in a coaching year. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, look, and what a great even current now, right? What a great resource for you to have someone who's taken a team to the national championship, and you're able to do that to bounce these because I'm sure, like all coaches, right, you're just going to keep developing and learning and as you go. um so i I watched a video interview of you when you were first hired on one of Muskingum Sports something
Yep. Yep. Our
coffee
sports
with.
network. Yeah.
Yeah,
Coffee
yeah,
with the
yeah.
coaches. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was like, oh my gosh, another Division 3 video thing. I was, yeah.
Yes.
um this is sort of like two questions, but when you got to Muskingum, sort of what was it? What would you say was the state of the program, and then and sort of what was we'll get into the second part because that's a broader discussion.
Yeah. The program itself, it was established in the sense that it's been a part of the OAC for a long time. The athletes on the team were great kids, really driven academically and driven to create that family like culture. The one area within the program that, I mean, the kids, when my athletes, when I came in, were, we want to be more competitive. We want to win games. We want to be pushed. We want to be, like, raise our standard. And that's something that, I have started to do with them over
Mhm.
these past, I guess I'm going on 2 years now being here. And they have truly enjoyed that. And we've had multiple conversations about how we all can be better, how they can push each other. But yeah, the competitive side of it was the area that needed probably the most kind of tender love and care there, right? To really drive it. And I'm a competitor. I want to win. And so I love that the kids wanted that and they were asking for that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I spoke with Kyle Desatel, who's the head men's coach of Tufts,
Okay.
and he said two things. He's like the one thing that people don't stress enough is competitiveness, and then this idea of winning and wanting to win. And so I like to hear that, right? Because everyone's so afraid of the word win sometimes. But sorry, ramble again. You know, were there any immediate challenges? To me, competitiveness and the idea of winning are the things that you're starting to do to build what I always call just a culture around your team and a bedrock of sort of how you build your program. What was sort of like the first challenge that you took on, and it could just be, right, like was it COVID that you had to deal that you were remote? Because I mean, the timing couldn't have been better or worse. Like, I don't know.
The timing was incredible. Our softball coach here at Muskingum, who's actually our interim AD right now, Carrie Winters, and she said, I got here and COVID wasn't here before you came, right? So she always makes that joke for me and blames COVID on myself. But yeah, I mean, I think that had to have been the biggest challenge for me. I started on March 9th, which was a Monday, and the entire campus was gone by that Friday. So, I was supposed to have a meeting with my team that was going to go how our spring season was going to look like. And then it immediately changed within 24 hours of what we are going to do when we go home. And like everybody, we thought it was going to be a couple weeks, and it ended up being an entire semester. And I think, it really tested my creativeness to be able to start that culture. Because I was excited to have a spring season that was, not a true season where we can do different things and get into it, but then, we just didn't have it. And we had to do Zoom meetings for our culture. That was the only way we kind of interacted with each other. We found different fun apps that you could do videos for to get to know one another, have my team get to know me a little bit more. And it was a huge challenge, and recruiting during COVID was big because I knew that was going to be what helped us become more competitive. Getting athletes who already had that innate ability in their bones, played at a high level in the club world already, and then we couldn't even go watch those athletes. So there was a lot of different avenues, that I had to kind of navigate pretty quickly. I was fortunate that my fiance, she is the head men's and women's golf coach at Denison. So we both were together quarantining, trying to figure this all out, and to have two coaches in the same house can be crazy at times, but we were able to kind of bounce some ideas off of each other just by sitting right next to one another. Like, her, and I want to mention her name. Her name's Lauren Grogan, and we would sit there and she would say, well, I did this with my team, or what do you think about this idea? And so it was a challenge, but I think I was fortunate enough to have a lot of people surround me to help me through it.
Yeah, that's it's remarkable that I still can't believe that was a year, right?
Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah.
sort of it's just crazy. And I was here where I'm always have been. I've never, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me, but I couldn't imagine trying to keep a team together. Not even together. You're trying to build something for the future and doing it via this. Like,
it felt so wrong almost, because it's a screen, and when you first jump into something, they're kind of hesitant to try to get to know you, and now we have a screen to try and get to know me. And I think that was our biggest challenge, was trusting each other because it was a screen.
Yeah. So I do have to ask, and it's not a bad thing. Like, why Muskingum? Was it because it was an opportunity for you to be a head coach? Was that sort of your next? You're at Denison again, having played in the OAC, played against Denison. I'll actually say I shut them out my sophomore year, and then I scored 2 goals on them my senior year.
Okay.
So, I got to live in my memories a little bit sometimes.
Definitely. Yeah.
What was it about Muskingum that got you comfortable with leaving a preeminent Ohio, I'll just say Division III women's program, right? That's not a slouch of a program.
No, it's not. And it was a difficult decision. Deciding, do I stay with this program, for 5th year as an assistant coach, or do I take that next step and feel out the head coaching world and see what that looks like. And Muskingum came to me, was a perfect timing of everything, because I was ready for it. I was ready to move on to that next level. I had been an assistant coach for 7.5 years at that point. And I wanted to take everything that I learned and put it into my own program itself. And I thought Muskingum had a lot of growth potential. With the academic side that Muskingum does have. A couple of our strong majors are nursing and education. So on the women's side is massive. And when I came on campus, I was told that you can be a nursing major and play sports for all 4 years, and you don't hear that too often. So, there's the president, President Hassler, she's been here for 5 years, going on 6, and she has done a lot of great work with Muskingum to bring it up to where it should be, whether it's on the academic side, it's on the athletic side with a brand new health and wellness center that, it's going to be done by this fall. So I felt like this program, with someone who had the energy like myself to get on the recruiting trail and get those athletes who might not even have known about Muskingum, because they just have not heard about the recruiting side before. I just felt like it was the right move for myself at that time, and I was super excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's a great school. Like there's all of the OAC schools, I think, have something about them that there's definitely one of the, and especially seeing everything that the school's doing to build up its athletics, and we'll talk about that. But let me ask, just from a coaching perspective, and this is now it's your program, do you have any non-negotiables with your team? Have you determined, like, these are the 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 some guys non-negotiables that you have if you're going to be on this team, these are the things you gotta accept?
Yeah. We talk about our non-negotiables all the time, underneath kind of like our core values of this program. We talk about that. You have to be someone who is a hard worker in every walk of life, whether that is on the field, in the classroom, really in the social area, like everything. You have to be able to hold each other accountable, and be okay with holding each other accountable. And a big one that we're getting on right now is the mental toughness side of the game, and of really just a walk of life and the way of life right now, because it's just something that's constant in the back of our mind, and it's something that we are talking weekly about, and I've asked my athletes to really dive into it so that they can become better leaders, and really help not only themselves get better, but their teammates get better. So I want my older kids to buy into that and help the incoming freshmen see what we're trying to do and understand that it is okay to have a tough conversation with one another, because that's how we're going to be able to get better on the field. So we talk about that a lot. Academics is also something like a non-negotiable for us as a program. Now that comes from my athletes themselves more than me. I help support more than anything because, again, like I said, the program's been pretty strong on the academic side, having over, I mean, last semester we had a 3.3 team GPA, and that's kind of consistent with this program. But we say to our team all the time, you want to come away with that great degree, so put your time into your academics as much as you put your time into the athletic side.
That's interesting. That's good to hear, right? Because student athletes, right? The first word student. So I'm big into the academic side.
Yeah.
Okay, so before, let me just ask you, this is an early question. You've had one full season. What are your early expectations for next year, or goals that you might have that you would publicly share?
Yeah, no, that's a great question and a great way to word it, right? But yeah, only having one season, I think our goals are to make it to the conference tournament. I mean, that was our goal this past season, and I think we are right there. We were in a lot of those conference games that I feel can be winnable. We're just missing like that next little step of either how to finish a game or how to hold on to a lead, or how to make sure that the teams aren't going to have an easy goal, kind of getting in ourselves in behind. And I think we have the right leadership, the right incoming freshmen combined with our last year's freshmen who are going to jumpstart that. But yeah, our goal is to make it to the conference tournament. The program in the past has not. So, we want to be a part of that. Because the OAC is such a strong conference, we want to be one of those top 6. And I think we can easily do that next year.
I mean, I'll talk about it earlier, but I think I looked at your schedule from the past year, and I think there were 5 games, and I think they were all maybe one wasn't a conference game, where you only lost by a goal. And so I look at that, and that to me is the easy, right? Like those are the ones that you could flip that very easily. And then I think that does put you up there. But I jumped ahead there for a second. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the culture that you're instilling, building. Talked to Roy Dunshee today from Washington College, the men's coach, and he said culture is not something you build; it's something that sort of starts to coalesce on its own. But like I mentioned, you come from Denison, super successful program in its own right. What did you learn there about building a team, and specifically about building a program that you're like, you know what, that's a model, or those are the things that I want to do here at Muskingum? Because it does sound like, and to me, it's a green field for you, right? Like you could make this program as much as you want it to be. And so I think it does start with a foundation of culture. So yeah, from Denison, what are some of the things that you sort of decided, like, I'm going to take from there and put into your job here at Muskingum?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was culture drives the success on the field. You can talk about X's and O's all you want, but if you don't have everyone buying in and wanting to have the same goal and move in the same direction, then you're not going to be able to win those games at the end of the day. And I talk that with my team all the time. I think the biggest thing that I took from Denison is this program needs to have leaders other than myself or my coaching staff. At Denison, our athletes were the ones who, only the real big stuff came to us as the coaching staff. And, they were able to have those tougher conversations and almost like make sure their teammates were staying on the same page. I think for us, that's going to take a little bit of time. That's something that I've been asking of my athletes since day one of being at Muskingum, and we are, right now we're doing some leadership work where we're learning how to do what we're saying, not just saying it, and put those actions, those words into actions. And it's one thing to just say something, but it's another thing to do it and then hold each other accountable if it's not finalized.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I could talk about culture for hours, but I know my athletes are probably sick of hearing it. But I do think that we have some young leaders, and when they become juniors and seniors, that's when this culture is the team's culture. That's when those athletes are going to handle those situations, make sure our freshmen are on top of everything and understanding what it takes to be competitive and to win, and also then, be a good culture within the team.
Yeah. It's interesting. I of all the coaches that I've talked to, and there is one thing about good team. I'll just say good teams in general, that other teams that are, might be good for a year and might not. The foundation of how good they are relies all on the culture of that team, and there's something unique about it. And I was joking with someone yesterday or today where I said, I wish I could figure out what that formula is to create that culture, because I would be a very wealthy man going around teaching coaches how to build a culture,
Yes.
Like, it's just so, there is something very organic about it, but it is very much guided by, I do think at some point it's guided by the head coach, so you, but then it's almost like set it and forget it, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is what we are. Now it's up to the team to and the players to embrace it, to build upon it, and like you said, I do think there's a big part of culture, the parameters of it end up being is accountability, right? Like, if you're not going to hold each other accountable, it doesn't matter outside of that, right? It doesn't because anybody's going to do whatever they want. That's not the direction of the team. A team has to go. So,
Yeah.
you, again, you basically COVID year, whatever is your first year, and then you have your first full season this fall, and it sounds like you're still trying to put your stamp on the team. Is that fair? I mean, I'm sure you made a trim. I'm sure the spring was very helpful. What games, whatever sessions you were able to have, and then obviously the fall, regular season. But are you still working on, hey, this is who I am as a coach? I mean, and how long? I don't know if you could put a timeline on it, but how long do you think that takes before you think you're okay? I'm good. This is who I am. This is where I'm at.
Yeah, I think that question's ever changing for the answer, right? And I think as a coach, your team is different every single season that they come in, and you have to be able to kind of adapt to whether it's the playing styles, their personalities, how they mesh with one another. And so I think for myself, I'm constantly trying to learn different ways to do the same thing. Right? Like different ways to do a drill that we've been doing to keep our athletes on their toes, different ways to communicate with my athletes, whether it be about soccer, whether it be about the culture, different ways to motivate our athletes. I think I try and be as adaptive as possible and try to get to know my athletes individually as much as I can. So then I know individually how to push them, but then bring them back to realize you have to use your individual strengths together as one whole group.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think, yes, it's my first head coaching gig. I think I have to learn a lot, and I'm trying to be kind of like a sponge to learn from any coach that I can who's been successful. Go on, get some education courses as well to be successful. So I think that's going to take some time to get what like my staple is as a coach.
Yeah. Um, how receptive do you think the team has been? It sounds to me you are really taking the program in a different direction than what it's been. How receptive has the team been in that new direction and sort of your new approach? Again, with the ultimate objective is you want to be competitive, you want to compete in the OAC tournament, all these things.
Yeah, I think they've been very receptive of it. This past fall, we had our freshman class was almost half of our team. So I think that kind of helps as well because they're green, they're new, all they know is me and kind of what I've been talking through the recruiting process with them. I think the returning classes that have stuck it out with me in this, head coach change are the right ones who have stuck it out. And that's why they're still here because they do trust and believe in what our coaching staff has been talking about. And they want to get to those goals that we constantly are talking about. And so, yes, there are times where we butt heads a little bit, but I think the athletes that we have are open to have those conversations and are open to either agree to disagree or open their mind a little bit more and realize yes, coach understands what it takes to play at a high level because I played at a high level and coach at a high level because I've been there as well. But sometimes they open my mind too, right? I think we do a good job of helping one another, but they've been very receptive with the change and with us, raising the standard a lot more than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm. Do you notice a difference from when you first started interacting? Granted, again, it's Zoom and COVID, but do you notice that difference already in the 2 years that you've been sort of working this?
Yes. One big easy way to notice it is I've told them since day one that my door that's right over there is always open. Come in, ask me questions, watch film, let's get better in whatever way to help you individually or as a group, whatever it happens to be. At first, they were hesitant to actually have a conversation with me and to voice their opinions. But now that they're coming to my office, they're having 30-minute conversations with me about really anything under the sun, which I absolutely love, and I hope keeps happening, and I think will, because now they know probably more about me than they did in the beginning, and that helps you build those trusting relationships.
Yeah. That's great. I love to hear that. Doors should always be open. All right. So since you're in this process of building, like, how important is it for you right now? There's two ways I think you can go. Or a program could go. How important is it for you to get players who will fit into what you're trying to build, or are you going down the route of I need players, I need competitive players, and I'll figure out the rest first? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I think it's a little bit of combination of the two. I'm the type of person that, as a coach, if when I'm recruiting you and you're a very good athlete, but then you don't have the culture side of things down, and you won't fit into our culture, you're probably not going to be for our team. But if I can see that potential in that athlete and, maybe underneath our coaching staff, my philosophy, our team's culture, maybe it will help change that athlete, I might take a risk on, someone because I can kind of see that potential growth for them. But yeah, I think for the most part, we're looking for athletes who are good soccer players coupled with fitting in with the culture, fitting in with our team, and fitting in with our ideas of where we want to go and where we want to take it.
Yeah. All right, so let's shift over to the season if you're okay with that.
Yeah, definitely.
I too can go down the culture rabbit hole,
Yes.
probably because all I get to do, I sit here and I think about these things and I don't actually think about X's and O's anymore. But yeah, because I think that's the biggest deal to me is culture, is how do you build that and how do you keep it going? To me, that's the next biggest thing is you build it and you provide the environment for it and you get to a spot, but then it's how do you keep it going year over year? That's the big challenge. But that's when you get to that next level, right? That new standard. So All right, so you have that spring season, which no one's really said the spring was great, other than we got to play some games. And so here we are in August. You really haven't had a real exposure to your team, and this is your first season as a head coach. What what was your thinking around where you thought the team was at, or where it could get to by the end of the season, knowing you have a goal to make the tournament and whatnot? But yeah, just curious about that.
Yeah, I felt we could make strides in the right direction with this group this past fall. I think we did. I know the results aren't where we want them to be, or what we expect them to be, but I think the individual goals that each individual player got, that the team got, like you said, the spring of 2021, all we did was play conference teams, and for us, that's a big ask in that first spring. But coming into this fall, knowing that we were going to have out of conference games to maybe gain some confidence, to score some goals, which we did, or even play some top people before we go into conference, helped us grow and develop in those small areas. That's what I think is going to jumpstart us for the fall of 2022, because we've grown. We have freshmen who played almost 90 minutes, who kind of, you don't really see that happening too often. We have even some of our older kids learning how to be better leaders in this springtime to jumpstart us forward. So I think we saw a lot of growth, within our team, and individuals themselves.
Oh, that's awesome. So to that point there, you played play in an OAC, which is very, very competitive. You have the likes of John Carroll, Otterbein, Capital. Just saying the words really get me.
Yeah.
Was there, when you played against these teams, were there things that you wanted to achieve? Again, you're even if it's on the periphery, maybe it was to go up against, was it John Carroll? No, did John Carroll win it, or Otterbein?
Ohio Northern actually
is
another strong one in our women's side. Yeah.
Was there anything that you wanted to do in those games where you told the team, like, look, it doesn't, we're focused on what we're doing, not necessarily what they're going to do. We want to show a certain way.
Yeah. What's awesome is our team bought into the idea of, we're going to play slightly different, against those teams. We're probably going to focus more on our defensive side of things, because this is when we're going to get our defense to be sound. And they quickly realized that if we played as one unit, then they can't get in behind us. And then how quickly can we get into that transition side of things, to get in behind them and shock them when they have all their numbers forward? Because where we saw that actually was early on in the season. We played against Case Western Reserve, who at that point was ranked nationally, maybe 11th or 13th, somewhere in that range. And what was neat to see is we scored first on them. And it was a team, I think they gave up 9 goals maybe in the entire year. They made it to the Sweet 16. And it was because our defense was so sound. And then when they were going backwards, we pushed our defense up. And one of our freshmen, Morgan Meisel, put the ball in the back of the net by stealing it off the goalkeeper's foot, right? So again, it was that discipline of staying compact, staying in our form, and then breaking out of it once we get the ball. And we did that against those top teams in conference. The biggest one for us was our Otterbein game. When we look at last spring of 2021 to this fall of 2021 against Otterbein, we lost 9-0 in the spring against them. And this past fall, we lost 2-0. And we had a PK chance. One of our sophomores just kind of slotted it just slightly wide. So it could have been a 2-1 game against a program that ended up being top 2 in our conference. So again, buying into that defensive side, I think, will help them realize, keep your defense compact. That's what starts the offense.
Yeah. Do That's the best place to start too, right? Like if
Yeah.
that to me is how do you lock down? When you need to lock down, how do you lock down? We'll figure out the offense later. But
Yeah.
do you by chance, because now I'm intrigued, do you know on the website, is there, I should have looked, is there game film on those two, on the two Otterbein games from the spring and the fall?
I don't think there is on our website. There might be on the OAC TV app. We
Okay.
we kind of block our games on the website so that we can't, no one can easily scout us.
Yeah.
But it could be on the OAC. And I mean, if you're interested in watching them, I can download them off our huddle, and
Yeah.
I can definitely send them to you if you're
Yeah,
interested.
I would love to watch that. Again, that's the sort of thing that intrigues me, is the difference. Like, oh, look at the team today and then 6 months down the road and seeing what the
Yeah.
impact is. Okay, so talking about freshmen, you have two freshmen in goal, Abigail Karstensen and Jennifer Roberts,
Yes.
that I think pretty much shared the bulk of the time. Was it Abigail who was second team or third team all conference?
Abby, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Abby
Wow.
was.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
As a freshman, which is again another thing you don't
Yeah.
necessarily see that often. You have six other freshmen who either started or got significant minutes. I can't remember the breakdown, but
Yeah.
you have four sophomores in the same boat. So now you're up to 12 pretty much freshmen and sophomores. And your leading scorer, Morgan Meisel?
Meisel. Yep.
Meisel, yep. I wish everyone would be called Smith. It just make my life that much easier.
Yeah.
Is a freshman. You have a super, and I think you're only graduating three, four,
Two.
two. Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
two. So I think it's pretty safe to say that you have a very, very young team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, were you surprised at how they're able to deal with the pressure of their, let's just say, their first season in, because the sophomores only got the spring, right? They didn't get a
Right.
real season.
Right.
So
Right.
you had 12 players that this was their first real experience in a competitive
Yeah.
atmosphere. And we'll talk about some other stuff, but I was surprised that just how young, and that you were able to compete at certain, it's at a certain level that you don't, again, as a young team, you don't even, everyone's concerned about having one freshman on the field, let alone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I mean our other goalkeeper, so all three of them got some good significant minutes based off there were some injuries and just different things that happened. And our other goalkeeper, her name's Kelly Buck, she's a sophomore.
Oh.
So our three goalkeepers are young.
Yeah.
And you touched on it there. Abby and Morgan, both of them made third team all conference in a tough conference where our team, we're not going to shy away from it. We were last place. You can see that online. We were last place in conference, and we got a goalkeeper, which is is very impressive.
Yeah.
She's that standout of a goalkeeper, in her own right. And then Morgan, I mean, we scored 3 goals in conference, but she was our leading scorer. And I think she had 8 goals as a freshman. She made her mark in the record book already. So, and making an all-conference team, both of them are just some special players. And like you hit on it, there are the rest of our freshman class and even our sophomores. I didn't ever see the pressure really get to them. And I think that it's because they almost have that greenness where they don't know any different.
They don't know. Yeah.
They don't know any different. They came from really strong club teams that are winning state cups, that are winning tournaments, winning a lot of games, so they're used to winning. So no, it didn't matter who they were going up against. They didn't care. And so which was a nice feeling. And I think helped relax some of the older athletes on the team. When you're playing with the majority of athletes who are like, okay, we're going up against Ohio Northern today.
Who are they? Yeah.
They're the same team, I don't care. And kind of helps the older kids realize, you're right. Yeah. 30 other women athletes who put their shoes on the exact same way.
Yeah.
So I think it helped kind of balance everything and not let that pressure get to us. And I hope we never lose that.
Yeah. And I can see now why you mentioned about when your young players become juniors and seniors, the types of leaders they're going to be, because you, again, whether by design or not, that's, you've set yourself up for that, right? And if you're doing all these things on the cultural side, I just think, I mean, really, you're in a great position, right? For
Yeah.
in that regard, as long as you keep the soccer keeps getting better and you keep doing
Yes.
that type of work.
Yes.
You know, do you have a sort of, I don't want to say like, you know, signs along the way where you're saying, okay, we're in the right direction. Oh, we're off our long-term goal of being competitive, making the tournament, and not just soccer related, but are there things along the way where you're like, hey, we're in a great spot? Because, right, I think probably there are games where that's what you can say, right? Like, we're in a great spot. We're doing the things. It'll come, right? Like,
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, what we did this past fall and we even did it last spring, we set like mini goals throughout the games. And we were fortunate to have a breakdown system that helps us create those mini goals. The two games that we won and some of the other games that we were either within one goal of that game itself. The big things that we saw were we took a lot of shots on goal. We were able to complete a lot of passing strings in the attacking side of the field. And then the other games that maybe we lost by 5 or 6 goals, we didn't have that. So we were able to, like I said, make these little goals, work on those in practice. And when we're going through and doing a drill, yes, we're doing the drill for the reason of it, but are we connecting passing strings? Are we also looking for the amount of shots that we're getting on goal in practice, so that when we go into whatever the next game is, those goals are getting higher and higher and higher. It was an up and down roller coaster. I mean, that's what success is, right? But we were able to go back on those mini goals and look at that rather than look at the results. If our team had to keep looking at the results and that's the only thing that they or my coaching staff cared about, it would have been a really tough time.
Right.
But because we broke it down into those many things and we could see the many successes of whether it's an individual or it's the team itself, we had things to be excited about and to grow upon.
Yeah. That's all. I never heard. Well, I've heard about having goals or smaller goals, but was this something formal that you did? These mini goals, like, is that something that you did on an individual basis? And
it was both. It was both. The individual bases were probably more on the shots side of things. I was a forward. Well, I guess I still am a forward. I'm an attacking minded person.
You will always be a forward. Right, you're always a forward.
Exactly right. Doesn't matter how old I am, I'm a forward. But that's my mindset of like, you should just shoot the ball. The more you shoot, the more the opportunity you're going to score. So like on the individual side, we were looking at how many shots. If you were one of our forwards or you were one of our attacking mids, were you getting 4? Were you getting 7 shots a game? We wanted to be closer to the double digits for each individual person. But then yes, the team goals. Sometimes our athletes came up with some of them, where they would watch the film against whoever we're going to play against, and they would create a mini goal themselves. Right. But every single pregame speech or the practice before, we made 5 of them, and they were either, some of them might have been the same, like the defensive side was pretty much the same, of like hold them to a certain amount of shots. And that was based off of statistics that the team either did in the past or did in the past against us. But sometimes they'd change, and we'd have 5, and we'd at the end of the game, did we do that? Or the next day, we'd go over, did we do that? Why? And we talk about maybe yes, we did. Why were we successful? But no, we didn't hit the mark this time. Why were we not successful? So that was something we constantly talked about, and the team really enjoyed that. Because it took away from the results.
Yeah. Well, too, right? Like you said, success isn't a straight line, right? It's up and downs and how you deal, and so having those, like I said, I signposts that say, hey, you're this is great, you did this, success, awesome. Not necessarily about, oh, did you make the tournament or not. Those are huge. It's the psychology of that, right? As a player, you got to hold on to something, right? Like, I scored a goal. You always remember that one goal, right? Or hey, look, did you see that shot? Like, you always remember those successes that you have along the way. All right, we talked about this a little bit, and maybe you could go into a little bit more detail, but looked at your schedule, and like we talked about that you lost 5 games by 1 goal. Like I said, I think they were all maybe 4 of them were conference, but and in the spring you didn't have any. Oh, you had 2. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How close do you feel like you're to turning the corner? Like, how excited? I'll just say this because I would be. How excited are you to come out in the fall, knowing that you're that close? Because, like I said, I just do numbers because I can't watch all the games.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, if you do that, you're there. You jump. You're in 6th, right? Or you're in 5th, whatever. Like, that's how close that could be.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of those games we were 1 goal away were the teams who were 4th through 6th in our conference itself. And so that is just a great stat. And I'm honestly not sure our team realizes that. They realize that we lost and we didn't make it to the tournament because that's what their mindset is, and that's something that we will definitely talk about with them. That we're that close. We're that close. We're just 1 save away or 1 goal away from either tying and going in overtime or winning a game. And what made me the most excited for the next season was we played our last game against Heidelberg, and we knew it didn't truly matter if we won, lost, or tied. It wasn't going to affect us in any way, by meaning of going to the conference tournament or anything along those lines. They had a pretty successful year for themselves, and they made it to the conference tournament, and we went out there. They scored a goal on us, which normally when we get a goal scored on us, especially when we're like, it doesn't matter, our heads go straight down.
Yeah, and your shoulders, like,
and it's
physical reaction is so visible, right?
Exactly, and it's like, you can kind of see that it doesn't matter. We're going to lose this game. It doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Right.
We come back out, have this incredible goal. I mean, it was just top shelf, great shot, great finish, and we tie it up with this team. And we're playing hard, and they never stopped playing. Now Heidelberg did get in behind us, and they scored another goal. But what was exciting to see is every single person, the team on the people who were on the bench, the people who were on the field, even after we got that goal scored on us, to just keep fighting, to then put that goal in the back of the net to tie the game, in a game that truly didn't mean much except for pride. And to see that we do have that pride, and we do that, I think showed the most growth in the competitive side of our team, because they never gave up.
Yeah. Well, tell your team, either show them this again, just as an outsider and just sort of doing the basic look of this stuff, like, you are close, right? Like, you're close. Like, that to me is, and not only are you close, but you have such, you're such a young team.
So much room to develop.
So much room, like that, and it's not going to take that much.
Right.
It's not going to take that much to go from.
I tell my team all the time is, when you taste that win, that whether it, we went to overtime with Wilmington this past fall, and we end up losing in overtime. But after that game, we had a conversation with our team about just how strong that game was. We had, different injuries, COVID, different things that were making our numbers a little bit lower. And the fact that we went out and, just barely lost to them. One thing that I took away from that was so interesting is our juniors said they've never gone to overtime in their 3 years of playing, and the rest of our team seeing like, oh, really? We've never done that. Like, we've always just lost the game, but this time we've gone to overtime. Well, yes, we lost the game, but we actually made it to overtime. And I said to them, I was like, just imagine the feeling when you get to say, we won this game. We went to overtime and then we won, or we won this game outright. And then that's what's going to be that turn that just takes us. And then the confidence is just going to grow and grow and grow.
Winning is contagious, right? Like, it is just, it does something for you. You win that one game. Sometimes all it is that one game to totally transform how a player plays, sees the game, all of that stuff, to want to go out and I want to do this again. I want to do this again. And then pushes them just enough. That's that difference, right? That's that one goal difference. Anyhow, I got goosebumps, and it's like 90 degrees in my office because I'm like, okay. So, and you mentioned it before, you were last in the OAC, and not to cause any controversy, but there's got to be a team you have a target, like that's your again, that might be too much information for you to surrender, so maybe you have a diplomatic answer to that, but is there somebody you're just looking to overtake?
I think it's really everyone in conference. I think that's our biggest thing, and I think, I think my own athletes will probably answer that differently. Some might say Marietta because they're the closest one to us. They're 45 minutes down the road. Some might say Mount Union because they have or they're from Mount Union, so they have a little connection there. Some might say Wilmington because of what I just described. We're right there against Wilmington, and any other conference team that I could name out there. I think our team, and myself, is prove ourselves that Muskingum should be a worry on all the teams' schedule. Prove ourselves that we can make it to the conference tournament, because we are good enough and we have the right players to be able to do that. So I think I would say the target would be, let's get to 6th through 4th place in conference, right? Let's get up there, or let's even break the 3rd place team, because the past I can't tell you how many years 1 through 3 have always been Otterbein, Ohio Northern, and Capital. The 4 through 6 have changed, so let's make a new. So I think the conference tournament is that monkey on our back a little bit, more than team specifically.
I'm not going to name names, knowing the OAC, but I will say on the I think on the men's and women's side, that there are certain schools that, I'll just say, I don't want to say, but certain programs that don't have to try as hard and don't have to work as hard because they're in a good position for whatever reasons, their location, they're in the city, what have you. And I've always said, like, if there's all the programs have great facilities and whatnot, but if there was a coach with the right mentality to go in and start like that would be the team that would sort of surpass them. And I don't mean, that's not a disparaging thing. I'm not trying to like disparage anybody, but that was always my sense. Like, I mean, to name one, because they're arch enemies of Mount Union, right? John Carroll was always that sort of program, and they're great on the men's side. I'm not, right? They're great on the men's side, so I'm not taking away, but there was a little bit of like, they don't have to try as hard as Mount Union to get talent and players, and you always just needed those guys who were going to go out there and grind it out, and those were the ones that were going to unseat the top. So I think you're that, you could be that next team. Like I said, just looking at stuff, I think your team is this close. But
yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, so are you okay? We shift into recruiting,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then we'll touch upon that. This is another, like, between you and your brother. I'm trying to think who is gonna which record we're gonna break. Who's got the longest interview? I mean, I originally, when I planned these out, I mean,
Yeah.
2
And
pages.
it's funny too because if you ask anybody who would have broken it, who would be as the longest interview, they would 100% have said me, because I'm a talker. I'm the one who wants to keep a conversation going. My brother, I mean, he talks, but if there's soccer in the equation, now
Oh,
you're taking Jamie on a whole different
a whole
tandem, and
other
he just
level.
keeps going. Yeah.
No, but I was originally thinking, oh, these are going to be like 30 minutes. Like, who's going to want to talk to me? Like 30 minutes. And I don't think we've already broken an hour. So,
Yeah.
and all of these interviews end up going an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. This is that's a tangent for me that I keep laughing about because I'm like, what? Anyhow. Okay. So beforehand, I just want to give, and you mentioned them before, and I really do appreciate teams, and I do appreciate players. Division 3, all schools, right? But obviously Division 3 is my focus. But that really place an emphasis on their academics. So this is a sort of a shout out just for the academic excellence your players have sort of taken in. You mentioned the 3.3 team GPA, which is, again, fantastic. Somebody who hires people in my non-function,
Yeah.
in my right, like, this is the sort of thing that matters in the long run, right? And so you had 3 academic All-Ohios, which is in of itself is outstanding. And so I just wanted to say, Alyssa Schneider, Jenna Jordan, and Sheridan Woofter.
Sure. Yep.
Yep. Just fantastic. It's definitely something worth to just call out because it's, again, it's something that very, very worthwhile.
And very proud of all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And they take that standard and they make sure the younger ones on our team realize that. And I think when the younger ones become older, you'll see more of us on that academic All Ohio for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. That's, again, that's what that's what everyone's there for. So, all right. So I got to ask, when I kind of asked this before. So no, I didn't. All right. When you're looking, now that we're talking about recruiting, when you're looking at a player, do you recruit a position? Especially right now, it might be interesting to ask this. Are you looking for a position to fill, or are you looking for a player?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think you hit on it right there right now. We're looking for a player. We're looking for someone who understands the game at a really high level, has a good soccer IQ, who plays at a high level as well, in that club field. And then coupled with that, we're looking for someone who has good character, who, and I know I touched on this before, but that fits into our culture. And we look for that. And how do you respect your teammates when you're playing? How do you respect your coach? How do you respect your parents when you're in this office, when we have you on campus? And things along those lines. But yeah, right now, we need athletes who understand the game and are versatile, who could be an outside back, outside forward, who could be a center mid, a center forward, really anything. Because we need to raise that level of the understanding of soccer to be, because soccer has no timeouts, so we need our athletes to be able to understand how to make those changes. So yeah, we're looking more at specific, like, players more than positions themselves.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now that, what would you say when you're looking at high school, and you've been doing Denison, you've sort of done all levels, let's say. And it's interesting because I was sort of put in my place earlier about asking this sort of question, and it was a good thing. When you're talking to high school prospects, well, because I said, what do they lack? And I was told they're not lacking. They just never been to this next level.
Yeah.
And that's total. And I was like, huh,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I've only been playing this game for 40 some odd years, and it's the first time I realized that. what are those things where you think players are at from a soccer perspective that they either don't realize or that they have to come to expect when they make that jump?
Yeah. I think the biggest transition for any athlete is speed of play and kind of the physicality and what it takes to become a better athlete. You know, it doesn't matter what level you're typically playing at, the speed of play and the physicality is just naturally going to be better because you're coming in as a 17, 18-year-old and you're playing against a 20, 21-year-old team, you know, like my team itself, we had most of my kids were 18, but a lot of 18-year-olds playing against a lot of teams that had junior and senior laden teams. And that was a big difference for them. They had to realize, oh, I do need to go in the weight room and I do need to get stronger so I can handle a hit or I can, maybe run past someone a little bit quicker. But the flip side too is being able to put the time in on your own, especially at our level. As coaches, we can't be there all the time with them, but we still expect our athletes to go, on an interval run on their own, go get touches on their own, go play on their own, go lift on their own, because just Division III world, we can't force them to do that. But where they're coming from, where they're going from high school to club or club to club, playing in the fall and the spring an entire year with that same coach, that they're used to their coach asking them to do it rather than them being the ones to do it on their own.
Yeah. That's another thing I got to figure out how I want to explore is that difference and sort of when they make that jump, what are those intangibles that they don't have necessarily to prepare themselves for the collegiate game.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, looks like, you're good. It's okay. So this is more about Muskingum because I was there back in the 80s, and this is before the competitive wars between all the schools and that they were building and trying to improve, and they would get one guy would get the rock wall and then, hey, I'm going to do a coffee bar, and sort of which we never had. It was like, you got the cafeteria, you got grilled cheese, you want grilled cheese? Anyhow, and we played on a grass field, but I did notice, I was looking around because, again, it's sort of nostalgic for me now, that Muskingum is committed, I mean, let's be honest, like a lot of cash to build, develop, and and enhance the existing facilities. So I don't know if this is the right name for it, the Bullock Health and Wellness Complex, but I think you mentioned.
Yep.
North Athletic Turf, which is going to be your home, or is your home?
That is where we play. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how important is that stuff? As for how important is that for you? Like, how important is that for when you bring talent on campus to be able to show, like, look, this is the commitment we're making to athletes outside of just being a soccer player. Now you're going to be exposed to all this.
Yeah, I think it's crucial. I think especially the athletes that we're going after now, where, they might be looking at, let's just say, a Denison, or they might even be looking at a smaller D1 where they have really great athletic facilities. And the fact that Muskingum and our administration has put, like you said, all the money and the time in to get these our facilities developed. And we've had the North Turf for, I think it might be 4 or 5 years now. Up there, it's a lighted turf field. We have one of those jumbotron where you can like get your picture up on the scoreboard. And we all know Ohio weather. Well, north weather is hit or miss sometimes, and to have a turf field is great. To know if it's raining, we're still playing or we're still practicing. The athletes love to see that. And then, like you hit on it there, our health and wellness center, it's going to be immaculate. And the fact that we did that through COVID, the project started in May of 2020, and they didn't stop. Where other schools were, let's save our money, let's do this. Our administration realized the importance of it, and how it was going to impact the community, the academic side, because there's going to be, labs in there for our nursing majors or for our exercise science majors, impact the campus itself to have more facilities for exercising, whether that be treadmills, bikes, and things like that are going to be in there. And then obviously the big one, athletics, because it's going to have full-size indoor track that our track team has never had a home indoor facility. They've made do with the indoor what we have now, where they go outside when it's cold. So they're going to be able to get helped and get better. And then there's what you don't see too often. We have about 60 yards of turf inside of that track. So now, not just soccer, but all the other field teams are going to be able to hop on that turf.
Yeah.
And our
indoors
program indoors.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Our program is just going to be able to lace their cleats up when they come inside, rather than putting indoor and playing futsal. And then the other really nice thing is the North Turf is just us and the men's soccer play on that in the fall. Football has their own turf. So, we don't have to share with the football team, where you don't see that too often either. And that's our own space. Now, lacrosses play up there in the spring, but in the fall, that's soccer. That's a soccer. Yeah. And I think that is a really big thing that recruits like to see when they're looking at campuses.
I've I talked to and been to a lot of different places and try to record when I'm there. And I've been saying for a while, and now that I see it at these different schools, the more I believe it, is that I think the competitive landscape is such as, if you want to be in that, call it rarefied air, and be a program that you could say, like, this is an elite program, I think by and large, one of the key pieces to that, and certain circumstances, it's going to be different, right? Like NYU, how that's a little bit more difficult for NYU, and Johns Hopkins is kind of in that boat, but is having their own, what that you could say, right? Their own soccer house.
Yeah.
And I watch the OAC games, and I see my alma mater playing on the football fields, right? Like, and I can't get over they're playing on a football field, and it's very, and maybe that's old school to me, but that to me, I saw that and I was like, oh, maybe I can, maybe I could apply for admission to Muskingum under a different name and get 4 more years of eligibility.
If you come back to check out Mount Union, you should come down the road and check out our facilities and see it for yourself.
I'm definitely going to, because I when we played Muskingum, I remember, I think it's a parking lot now next to. It was right. We
still have the grass field. We still have it. So like our turf is here, and then the grass field that I think you probably remember playing on is directly next to it. Which is another thing too. If we go play a grass team, we have a grass field. So we have a lot of space and a lot of resources that is great. Is amazing for our program.
I'll just say, like, that is a huge bonus. Yeah. Like, because not a lot of schools have that. They're anyhow. Yeah. So I was impressed with that. So you have 2. Well, I thought it was 3, but 2 seniors that are graduating. Is this changing how many you're bringing into your freshman class?
No. I was under the impression my first, I don't even know, maybe 5 years, we're going to have a bigger class, whether it anywhere between 10 and 12, because that's going to help jumpstart to change that competitiveness and how we're competing. So with the smaller class graduating, we currently have 9. We're looking to add a couple, maybe 2, 3 more in our freshman class coming in. And so, I think that's going to be a constant for the next 4 or 5 years, to be somewhere around that level, so that we get those right athletes and we can have the roster size of 30 people with the competitive people in it.
Yeah. And so how is it look? How's your recruiting class looking so far? I mean, you
Yeah,
said 9.
9, pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the ones we have committed and the ones that we kind of have out there, if we can get those ones committed, would fit in really, really well with our, our freshmen and our young side of our team and what we're returning in the fall, to grow and get better and
Yeah,
better.
yeah. That's awesome. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the best way for someone to get your attention, both in
Def-
terms of getting in touch with you, but also like, hey, I want to show you how good I am.
Yeah, definitely email. Email's huge, which they can find that on our athletics website. Let us know what showcases that they're playing in. We on our social media pages, you can see what showcases we are going to. So if they went on our Instagram at Muskie W Soccer, they can find the bigger showcases that we're gonna go to. Reach out to us, tell us why Muskingum might be an interest of yours, and make sure you give us our schedule so that we can go and watch you play.
Okay. Let me ask.
And kind of see if your style would fit in with us.
Yeah. Sorry, you can. I got all this stuff going on. Like you have phone calls. I wonder who
Yeah.
that is.
Yep.
Anyhow, sorry. All right, so I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. I am a recruit. I am thinking between Muskingum and Otterbein. Why should I choose to play for you?
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be Otterbein. Doesn't have to
Yeah,
be
yeah, 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 yeah.
Otterbein.
Yeah. Why you want to choose Muskingum? I mean, I think I've touched on it, previously here is our most important thing is to come away with a great degree. You're going to come away with a great degree because you have faculty on this campus that are going to know you as an individual, and are going to figure out what your niche is within whatever that major is itself, and then find you connections, whether it's a job or an internship, in the summer, so that you are truly prepared for that next side of life on that academic side. And then on the athletic side, we are doing a lot of great things here from the administration that I just talked about before. But what is a really neat thing about our program is we have a lot of young athletes playing. And that's something that, again, not many schools typically have. And I'm the type of coach who is going to play the best 11. It doesn't matter what year you are. If you are the best player, you are going to start and you're going to play. And so you're going to come away with kind of having a lot of experience on the field, and then just being a part of our culture, you're going to come away a better leader, because that at the end of the day is my main goal. Is, yes, you're going to become a better soccer player, but if you become a better person and a better leader at the end of the day, then I have done my job, and I'm going to put you in positions to, make you feel uncomfortable. So then when the next time you do it, you are comfortable with that, so that you go on that job interview and you know how to present yourself in front of a group. You know that you're confident and that you can do that job at hand. And that's all going to come from being a part of our women's soccer program and the culture that we have.
Okay, so I'm going to apply.
Yes.
I'll grow my hair. I
There we
don't know
go.
if that
That's right.
helps.
Yeah.
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 So if I usually just take all of the links and stuff like that, and I put them down in the description below, your camp and just sort of your websites. If there's anything you want me to put down there, feel free to send it to me, and gladly do that. And then I'll obviously, when this comes live, you'll get the link. But
Perfect.
other than that, just want to thank you for this. This was fantastic. I I have to do more. Like, this
Yeah.
is the sort of conversation I have where we're going to talk again. But by the way, before the season kicks off, when you have a window of time, because I
Perfect.
definitely want to follow up and keep in touch, because you are, um, you're doing all the right things, right? And that's awesome to see, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
I greatly appreciate it. And I appreciate you reaching out to me and kind of setting this video up. I think this, again, like I said, I think this is awesome kind of experience. I'm glad my brother mentioned my name and that I am another head soccer coach on the women's side in Division III. Sometimes he forgets that. He just calls me his sister.
Yeah.
But I
He did say, oh, my sister is the coach at Muskingum. And that's where I was like, Muskingum, really?
Yes.
In Ohio? And it just sort of led. That was
Yeah.
fun.
No, but yeah, seriously, if you make yourself back to Ohio, reach out. You have my email, and
Yep.
we definitely can show you around, and I'd love to, meet you in person.
I definitely will, because my job probably in the spring, early summer is going to take me out to Cleveland, Columbus,
Perfect.
and probably Cincinnati. So,
Perfect.
and I'm going to try to do it all within a week and drive around, because there's a lot of places that I want to go. But again, I just want to thank you, Coach. This was, again, fantastic. I really do appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks.